Do-won Kim sat in his small office at the Korean Space Center, staring at the strange message on his computer screen. As Earth's top expert in studying alien life forms, he had seen many odd things. But this message was different. The air felt heavy as he read it again. The Hadari, an alien race from a distant star system, wanted to make a deal with Earth. They would give humans their advanced technology for making other planets livable. This technology could save millions of lives on Earth's failing space colonies. But there was one condition that made Do-won's heart beat faster. Someone had to marry the alien ambassador's daughter. Do-won looked out his window at the tall buildings of New Seoul. The morning sun made the silver towers shine. He thought about how Earth badly needed this alien technology. 3 human colonies were running out of resources, and millions of people might die without help. His office phone rang, making him jump. "Dr. Kim," said the stern voice of Director Park, his boss. "Come to the main meeting room right now. The Hadari ambassador is here." Walking into the large meeting room, Do-won saw 5 humans and 3 Hadari aliens sitting around the table. The Hadari were tall beings with skin that looked like clear crystal. Their bodies seemed to catch and bend light in strange ways. Ambassador Nak-sung sat in the middle, his geometric features sharp and angular. "Dr. Kim," Ambassador Nak-sung said in perfect Korean, his voice sounding like wind chimes. "We have heard much about your work in understanding different life forms. Please, sit down." Director Park looked nervous as she spoke. "The Hadari have chosen our facility for their special request." She turned to Do-won. "They want someone with deep knowledge of alien biology. Someone who can truly appreciate their species." Ambassador Nak-sung nodded. "Yes, and we believe you might be the right person to marry my daughter, Hanul." The room went quiet. Do-won felt his mouth go dry. "Your daughter." The ambassador pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the middle of the table. Do-won tried hard not to show his shock. The image showed a female Hadari, but she looked very different from the others. While most Hadari had smooth, clear crystal skin, Hanul's surface was rough and uneven. Her geometric patterns were twisted and irregular. By both human and Hadari standards, she would be considered extremely unattractive. "Our terraforming technology can save your dying colonies," Ambassador Nak-sung said calmly. "All we ask is for someone to marry my daughter. Someone who can look past physical appearance." Do-won looked around the room. The human officials were avoiding eye contact with each other. They all knew how desperately Earth needed this technology. Millions of lives were at stake, but no one wanted to volunteer. Taking a deep breath, Do-won spoke up. "I'll do it." Everyone turned to look at him. Director Park's eyes widened. "Dr. Kim, please think carefully about this." "I have," Do-won said firmly. "I'm a scientist. I study life in all its forms. Physical appearance shouldn't matter when we're talking about saving millions of lives." Ambassador Nak-sung's crystal features shifted in what might have been a smile. "Excellent. The wedding will be in 1 month. My wife, Gia, will help with the arrangements." He stood up, his crystalline form catching the light. "Dr. Kim, please come to our embassy tomorrow. Hanul would like to meet you." As the Hadari left the room, Director Park put her hand on Do-won's shoulder. "Are you sure about this?" Do-won watched the aliens' crystal forms disappear down the hallway. "No," he said honestly. "But sometimes the most important decisions in life are the ones that scare us the most." What he didn't know then was that this decision would change not just his life, but the future of both human and Hadari civilization, and that the true meaning of beauty was about to be revealed in a way no one expected. The Hadari embassy stood tall and crystal-like in the heart of New Seoul. Do-won walked through its clear doors the next morning, his heart beating fast in his chest. 2 Hadari guards led him through hallways that seemed to be made of pure light. They entered a large room with windows that showed the city below. Do-won noticed the furniture was a mix of human and Hadari design. Some chairs looked normal, while others were made of the same crystal material as the Hadari themselves. Ambassador Naksung stood near a window, his crystal form catching the morning light. Next to him stood his wife, Gi, who looked very different from other Hadari. Her crystal skin had a soft, pearl-like glow that made her stand out. "Dr. Kim," Ambassador Naksung said, "thank you for coming. Haenul will join us soon." Jia moved closer to Duwan, her pearl-like form giving off a gentle light. "We are very happy you agreed to this arrangement," she said, her voice musical and kind. "Haenul has studied human culture for many years. She is very interested in your work." Before Duwan could reply, a door opened. Haenul walked in, and Duwan had to stop himself from stepping back. The hologram hadn't shown everything. Her crystal skin wasn't just rough and uneven. It seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. While other Hadari glowed and sparkled, she looked dark and cloudy. Her geometric patterns were twisted in ways that seemed almost painful. But then she spoke, and Duwan forgot about her appearance. "Dr. Kim," Haenul said in perfect Korean, "I read your paper about how different life forms adapt to new environments. Your ideas about cellular reconstruction were fascinating. Would you tell me more about your research?" Duwan blinked in surprise. Not only did she know his work, but she understood some of his most complex theories. For the next hour, they talked about science. Haenul asked smart questions and shared her own knowledge about how Hadari biology worked. She explained things about alien life that Duwan had never known. "Your understanding of science is amazing," Duwan said honestly. "How did you learn so much about human biology?" Haenul's cloudy form shifted in what might have been embarrassment. "I spend a lot of time studying. Some of us, those who look different, we focus more on developing our minds." Duwan noticed Ambassador Naksung and Ga watching them closely. The ambassador's expression was hard to read, but Ga seemed pleased. She kept moving closer to them, as if she wanted to hear every word. As they talked more, Duwan realized something interesting. When Haenul got excited about a topic, her cloudy surface would shift and move, creating patterns that were almost beautiful in their own strange way. Her passion for learning made him forget about her unusual appearance. "Would you like to see our research facilities?" Haenul asked. "We have equipment that might interest you." As they walked through the embassy's science labs, Duwan saw things he had only dreamed about. Haenul explained each device with deep knowledge. She showed him experiments that seemed like magic to him. At the end of the visit, Ambassador Naksung spoke. "Dr. Kim, what are your thoughts after meeting my daughter?" Duwan looked at Haenul, who seemed to shrink slightly under his gaze. He thought carefully before speaking. "I think appearances can be very misleading," he said. "Your daughter has one of the most brilliant minds I have ever encountered. I would be honored to continue our discussions about science." Haenul's cloudy surface rippled in what seemed like happiness. Ga made a sound like tiny bells ringing, and Ambassador Naksung's geometric features arranged themselves in what Duwan was starting to recognize as a smile. What Duwan didn't notice was the quick look that passed between Haenul and her mother, or the way Ga's pearl-like glow brightened just slightly. He was too busy thinking about all the amazing things he had learned and wondering what other surprises his unusual bride-to-be might have in store. 3 weeks before the wedding, Duwan met Haenul's cousin, Sun Mai, in a special room at the Hadari embassy. Unlike Haenul's dark, cloudy appearance, Sun Mai's crystal form sparkled with rainbow colors. She would be teaching Duwan about Hadari marriage customs. "Our wedding traditions go back 10,000 years, Sun Mai explained, showing Duwan some holographic images. "Each motion, each word has special meaning. You must learn them all perfectly." Duwan watched as Sun Mai demonstrated the complex hand movements of the Hadari wedding dance. His arms felt heavy as he tried to copy her graceful motions. After 2 hours of practice, he could barely lift his arms. "You are learning quickly," Sun Mai said kindly. Most non-Hadari take weeks to master even the basic moves. As Duwan practiced the wedding customs each day, he noticed something strange. Hainul was never around in the mornings. When he asked about her, the other Hadari would simply say she was preparing. One day, while taking a break from his lessons, Duwan heard unusual sounds coming from down a hallway. Following the noise, he found a large door made of dark crystal. Strange lights pulsed behind it, and he could hear a humming sound. "That is the transformation chamber," said a quiet voice behind him. Duwan turned to see Jia, Hainul's mother. Her pearl-like glow seemed brighter than usual. "What happens in there?" Duwan asked. "Hainul spends time there each day," Jia said carefully. "It is necessary for the wedding preparation." Before Duwan could ask more questions, she quickly changed the subject. "Come, you must practice the marriage vows again." The wedding vows were in the Hadari language, which sounded like crystal wind chimes in the wind. Duwan spent hours trying to get each sound right. Hainul's father watched these practices with great interest, his geometric features shifting in ways Duwan couldn't read. Between his lessons, Duwan and Hainul would meet to talk about science. Despite her strange appearance, Duwan found himself enjoying these talks more and more. Hainul knew things about the universe that amazed him. Sometimes, when she got excited about a topic, her cloudy surface would ripple in beautiful patterns. "Tell me about your childhood," Duwan said during one of their talks. Hainul was quiet for a moment. "I spent most of my time in study chambers," she said softly. "I was different from other children, but Mother always said that true beauty takes time to reveal itself." 1 week before the wedding, Duwan noticed more Hadari arriving at the embassy. Many of them wore special crystal decorations that marked them as important people. They would stop and stare at him when he walked past, their crystal forms glowing with what seemed like excitement. "Why are so many Hadari arriving early?" Duwan asked Sunmei during the lesson. Sunmei's rainbow colors flickered slightly. "This wedding is very important to our people," she said. "More important than you know." On his way out that evening, Duwan passed by the transformation chamber again. The humming sound was louder now, and bright lights leaked from under the door. He heard Hainul's voice from inside, speaking words he didn't understand. Then he heard Jia's voice respond, sounding proud and happy. Duwan walked home through the busy streets of New Seoul, thinking about everything he had learned. The Hadari were keeping secrets, that much was clear. But as he thought about Hainul's brilliant mind and how much he had come to enjoy their talks, he realized something. He was actually looking forward to the wedding, mysteries and all. What he didn't know was that the biggest mystery was yet to be revealed, and it would change everything he thought he knew about beauty and appearance. 2 days before the wedding, Duwan sat in his office at the Korean Space Center, reading urgent messages from Earth's governments. The colony on Mars was running out of air. The settlement on Europa was losing its heat. Millions of people needed the Hadari's terraforming technology. "You must make sure this wedding happens," Director Park told him during a morning meeting. Her face looked worried. "The future of our colonies depends on it." Duwan nodded, but his mind was on something else. His friend Taehyun, another scientist at the center, had made an interesting discovery. Duwan went to Taehyun's lab after the meeting. "Look at these readings," Taehyun said, pointing to his computer screen. "I've been scanning the Hadari embassy. There's strange energy coming from that room you told me about, the transformation chamber." The screen showed patterns of light and energy that Duwan had never seen before. "What kind of power could create readings like this?" he asked. "Nothing we know about," Taehyun answered. "This is beyond any human technology, even beyond what we've seen from the Hadari so far." Before they could discuss it more, Duwan's phone rang. It was Sunmei, Hainul's cousin. "You must come to the embassy right away," she said. "There's a problem with the wedding preparations." When Duwan arrived at the embassy, he found everyone in a state of worry. Hanul had been in the transformation chamber longer than usual. Her mother, Gia, stood outside the chamber's dark door, her pearl-like glow dimmer than normal. "Is everything okay?" Duwan asked. "Can I help?" "No one can enter the chamber," Ambassador Naksung said firmly. His crystal form seemed less bright than usual. Hanul must complete the preparation alone. Just then, they heard Hanul's voice from inside the chamber. She was speaking in the Hadari language, and she sounded tired. Ga pressed her hand against the door, her form glowing brighter. "The final preparation is always the hardest," Sun Mai explained to Duwan quietly, "but it must be done before the wedding." Later that day, Duwan received another worried call from Director Park. "The United Earth Council is sending representatives to the wedding," she said. "They want to make sure nothing goes wrong." That evening, Duwan walked through the embassy gardens, thinking. Strange lights flashed from the transformation chamber's windows. More important-looking Hadari arrived every hour. The pressure of everything felt heavy on his shoulders. Hanul finally came out of the chamber at sunset. Her cloudy form looked different somehow, less solid, as if she might fade away at any moment. But when she saw Duwan, she tried to act normal. "Are you worried about the wedding?" she asked him. "A little," Duwan admitted. "There's so much depending on it. The colonies, the technology, everything." Hanul's cloudy surface rippled. "Do you ever wonder why my people chose this way to share our technology?" "I've wondered about many things," Duwan said carefully. "The chamber, the preparations, why so many important Hadari are arriving." Hanul moved closer to him. Her voice was very quiet. "Tomorrow, you'll understand everything. Just remember what you've learned about me, not how I look, but who I am." As Duwan walked home that night, the city lights of New Seoul shined above him. He thought about Hanul's words, the strange energy readings, and all the secrets the Hadari were keeping. Something big was going to happen at the wedding. He just hoped he was ready for it. The wedding day arrived with bright sunshine over New Seoul. The Hadari Embassy's main hall had been transformed into a beautiful space where human and alien decorations mixed together. Crystal flowers grew from the walls, while traditional Korean paper lanterns floated in the air. Duwan stood at the front of the hall in his formal black hanbok, traditional Korean clothing chosen to honor his heritage. Around him, hundreds of guests filled the room. Human officials sat on one side, including Director Park and representatives from Earth's colonies. The Hadari sat on the other side, their crystal forms creating a sea of rainbow lights. Ambassador Naksung approached Duwan, his geometric features arranged in what looked like a serious expression. "Are you ready?" he asked quietly. "Yes," Duwan answered, trying to sound confident. He had practiced the ceremony movements for weeks. He knew every word of the Hadari marriage vows. The room went silent as soft music began to play. It was a strange but beautiful mix of Korean traditional music and the crystal chime sounds of Hadari songs. Then the side doors opened, and Hanul entered with her mother. Duwan heard several humans gasp. Hanul looked very different from when he had last seen her. Her usually dark, cloudy form seemed to be shifting, almost like smoke in the wind. Light moved through her in strange ways, creating patterns he had never seen before. Ga walked beside her daughter, her pearl-like glow brighter than ever. As Hanul moved down the aisle, Duwan noticed the Hadari guests becoming more and more excited. They whispered to each other, their crystal forms glowing brighter. Even the usually serious Sunma looked like she could barely stay still. The ceremony began with traditional Korean elements. Duwan and Hanul bowed to each other and their families. Then came the Hadari parts of the wedding. They performed the complex hand movements Duwan had practiced so hard to learn. Their fingers touched, and Duwan felt a strange tingling sensation. When it was time for the vows, Duwan spoke the Hadari words carefully. Each sound made the crystal decorations in the room vibrate slightly. Hanul's voice, when she spoke her vows, sounded different than usual, more musical, almost like her mother's. Throughout the ceremony, Haynul's form continued to change. The dark cloudiness that had always surrounded her was breaking up, like morning fog in sunshine. Light seemed to pulse beneath her surface. Duwan noticed Ga watching her daughter, with tears of light rolling down her crystal face. The human guests looked confused by these changes. Director Park kept glancing at her fellow officials with worried expressions, but the Hadari guests appeared more excited with each passing minute. Finally, the ceremony reached its end. The official spoke the last words in both Korean and the Hadari language. "You are now joined in marriage." Duwan looked at his new wife, and for a moment, everything seemed to pause. Haynul's form was changing faster now. The cloudiness was almost gone, replaced by something he couldn't quite understand. Light moved through her in impossible ways. "It's time," Jayade whispered, her voice full of joy. "The transformation is complete." Ambassador Naksung stepped forward, his crystal form glowing with pride. "Now," he said to everyone in the room, "you will all see the truth." Duwan offered his arm to Haynul, just as they had practiced. As they turned to walk back down the aisle together, he had no idea that in the next few moments, everything he thought he knew about his new wife, and the Hadari themselves, was about to change forever. As Duwan and Haynul walked down the aisle together, something extraordinary began to happen. The remaining cloudiness around Haynul's form started to dissolve completely, like morning mist touched by sunlight. The process began slowly at first, then moved faster and faster. The human guests stood up from their seats, unable to believe what they were seeing. Director Park's mouth fell open in shock. Even Duwan stopped walking, amazed by what was happening to his new wife. Haynul's dark, cloudy surface wasn't just disappearing, it was transforming. Underneath, her true form was finally showing itself. She was becoming a being of pure light, more beautiful than anything Duwan had ever seen. Her body glowed with colors that human eyes had never witnessed before. She looked like a star had taken the shape of a person. "This is who I really am," Haynul said softly to Duwan. Her voice now sounded like perfect music. "The ugly form you saw was just a shell, a test to find someone who could see past appearances." The Hadari guests erupted in joy, their crystal forms glowing brighter than ever before. Ga moved forward, and for the first time, Duwan understood why her pearl-like glow had always been different from other Hadari. She too began to transform, revealing her own light form beneath. Ambassador Naksung stepped forward to address the stunned humans. "Now you understand," he said proudly. "My daughter is not just any Hadari. She is a member of our royal family. Those of royal blood have two forms, the crystal form you know, and this true form of pure light." Sunma, still in her crystal form, explained further to the amazed crowd. "The royal family has a tradition going back thousands of years. Those of royal blood must find partners who will accept them at their worst before revealing their true beauty. It proves they are loved for who they are, not what they appear to be." Duwan looked at Haynul with new understanding. All those hours she had spent in the transformation chamber had been preparation for this moment. The strange energy readings Taehyun had detected were from her gradually changing form. "The chamber helped me hold my ugly form," Haynul explained to him. "It was becoming harder to maintain as the wedding grew closer. My true form wanted to emerge." The human officials were talking excitedly among themselves. This revelation meant Earth wasn't just getting terraforming technology. They had just formed a connection with the Hadari royal family itself. Director Park hurried over to Duwan and Haynul. "This is amazing," she said, "but why go through such an elaborate test?" Ambassador Naksung answered, "We needed to know humanity was ready for our greatest gifts. By accepting Haynul in her false form, Dr. Kim proved that humans can see beyond physical appearances and judge by character instead. This is crucial for our peoples to work together." Haynul turned to Duwan, her light form glowing with happiness. "Thank you for seeing me for who I really was," she said. for valuing my mind and my thoughts, even when my appearance was designed to push you away." Du-Wan smiled at his new wife, still amazed by her transformation. "I married you because of your brilliant mind and kind heart," he said. "Though I have to admit, this is quite a surprising wedding gift." The hall filled with laughter from both humans and Hidari. As Du-Wan and Hae-Newell continued their walk down the aisle, they knew this was just the beginning. Their marriage would open doors between their two species that no one had thought possible. After the wedding ceremony, the Hidari embassy hosted a grand celebration. The main hall glowed with light from both the crystal decorations and Hae-Newell's radiant form. Human and Hidari guests mingled together, discussing the amazing events they had witnessed. Ambassador Nak-Sung called Du-Wan and Hae-Newell to a private room away from the party. Ga came with them, her own light form casting gentle colors on the walls. Several important-looking Hidari followed, their crystal forms marking them as high officials. "Now that you are part of our royal family," Ambassador Nak-Sung said to Du-Wan, "we can share the full truth with you. The terraforming technology was just the beginning." Hae-Newell moved closer to Du-Wan, her light form pulsing softly. "Our people have been watching Earth for many years," she explained. "We saw how humans treated those who looked different from themselves. We needed to know if you were ready for what we want to share." "What do you mean?" Du-Wan asked. One of the Hidari officials stepped forward. "The royal family holds the keys to our most advanced technologies," he said. "Technologies that could change the universe itself. But we only share them with species who prove themselves worthy." Jie smiled at Du-Wan, her light form creating beautiful patterns in the air. "When you accepted Hae-Newell despite her seemingly ugly form, you showed us something important about humans. You proved that at least some of your people can see past physical differences." Ambassador Nak-Sung nodded. "The terraforming technology will save your colonies, yes, but we have so much more to offer. Technology that can heal any disease, ways to travel between stars in days instead of years, methods to create food and clean water from nothing." Du-Wan's mind spun as he thought about what this meant. All of that, just because I saw past Hae-Newell's appearance. "Not just that," Hae-Newell said softly. "You valued my mind. You listened to my ideas. You showed that humans can judge by character instead of looks. This means your species might be ready for the next step." Another official spoke up. "But there is still work to be done. Humans must learn to accept all kinds of differences, not just in appearance. This marriage is just the first step. We want you and Hae-Newell to lead a new project," Ambassador Nak-Sung announced. "A team of human and Hidari scientists working together. You will help introduce our advanced technologies slowly, making sure humans are ready for each new discovery." Du-Wan looked at his new wife, who was glowing with excitement. "Is this what you wanted all along?" he asked her. "To find someone who could help bridge our two species." "I wanted someone who could see me for who I really am," Hae-Newell answered honestly. "Finding you meant that humans and Hidari could truly work together. Every time you looked past my ugly form to see my mind and heart, you proved that this partnership could work." Director Park, who had been quietly invited into the room, stepped forward. "This is more than we ever dreamed possible," she said. "Not just saving our colonies, but advancing our whole civilization. The future starts here," Ambassador Nak-Sung said proudly. "With two people who prove that appearances mean nothing compared to what lies beneath." Du-Wan reached for Hae-Newell's hand, feeling the warm energy of her light form. Together, they would help build a bridge between their peoples, leading both species toward a brighter future than anyone had imagined possible. 1 month after the wedding, Du-Wan stood in the new Human Hidari Science Center in New Seoul. Through the large windows, he could see the city spreading out below. The morning sun made the buildings shine, but nothing shined brighter than Hae-Newell, who stood beside him in her light form. The center had become the heart of cooperation between the two species. Scientists from Earth worked side by side with Hidari experts, learning about technologies they had once thought impossible. Already, the failing colonies were being saved by the Hadari terraforming devices. "Watch this," Haynul said to her husband. She held up her hands, and her light form began to change. Slowly, her body transformed back into the crystal form of regular Hadari. Then, to Duwan's amazement, she changed into her old cloudy form. Finally, she returned to her beautiful light form. "All royal Hadari can change their forms," she explained. "It takes years to learn how to do it properly. That's why I spent so much time in the transformation chamber. I was learning to control my changes." Duwan smiled, remembering how mysterious everything had seemed before. "And all those energy readings my friend Tahyun detected were from my practice sessions," Haynul finished. "Mother says I learned faster than any royal child before me. I had good reason to hurry." She looked at him with glowing affection. The door opened, and Ambassador Naksung entered with a group of human officials. The humans no longer stared in amazement at Haynul's light form. They had grown used to working with the royal family. "The first stage is complete," the ambassador announced. "The colonies are safe. Now we can begin sharing more advanced technologies." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the middle of the room. It showed pictures of new devices that looked like magic to human eyes. Machines that could clean polluted air in minutes. Devices that could turn desert sand into fertile soil. Tools that could heal injuries instantly. Each new technology must be introduced carefully, Haynul reminded everyone. Humans need time to understand and use each one wisely. Duwan noticed that his wife glowed extra bright whenever she talked about helping Earth. She had told him that royal Hadari were raised to care for other species, to help them grow and advance. Now he understood why the royal family had created their marriage tradition. They needed leaders who cared about more than just appearances. Later that day, Duwan and Haynul walked through the city streets together. Some people still stopped to stare at Haynul's light form, but most just smiled and waved. They had learned what Duwan had discovered, that true beauty came in many forms. "Do you ever regret marrying someone from another species?" Duwan asked her. Haynul's light form sparkled with happiness. "Never," she said. "You showed me that humans can be more than what we thought. And you remind me every day that love sees with the heart, not the eyes." As they walked home under the setting sun, Duwan thought about how much had changed. A marriage that was supposed to be a simple exchange of technology had become something much more. It had opened the door to a future where humans and Hadari worked together, learning from each other, growing together. The story of the ugly alien's daughter had become a legend on Earth, but it wasn't really a story about ugliness or beauty. It was a story about seeing the truth that lies beneath the surface, and about how love could bridge the gap between the stars themselves.